Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, because we have guests from several countries in our very large region. So for some of you, it might be already afternoon. I'm very happy to welcome you to this first regional webcast that we have in PwC on workforce issues. And we are covering a very interesting topic, which will become even hotter, we guess, during the next years. My name is Oana Munteanu. I lead the people consulting practice in PwC Romania, and I will be the moderator for today's event. We have a very interesting panel of speakers, and I would like to introduce our guests first of all. Anda Turlute, Compensation and Benefits Manager at Swedbank Latvia. Oana Preda, Head of People and Culture at UniCredit Romania. Katarzyna Komorovska, who is a people in ESG topic leader in CEE from PwC. And of course, Michal Grybowski, who is our People and Organization Consulting Services leader. What will be the topics of today's webcast? Of course, we will have, besides the introduction, we will have some insights from our most recent edition of the Global Workforce Hopes and Fears Survey. This is a study that PwC conducts annually already for several years, exploring the perception of the general market, let's say, not companies, but people on the labor market in relation to hot topics, which are obviously including diversity and inclusion, digitalization, the way they react to different changes in the social economic environment. This presentation will be delivered by Michal in a few seconds, and then we will continue with the panel discussion that will involve all our guests. But before going to the presentation, I would like to make an introduction to this topic. Of course, for us in HR, gender pay equality is something that we are very interested in. It's a field which is dominated by women, but what we see recently is that the topic exceeds the area of HR, and we have very interesting signals actually coming from the society in general. Of course, this is happening in the overall framework where European Union and not only even other countries in the world are starting to regulate and to focus on measuring this gender pay gap because it has come out as an important social issue. Just to mention a few of the very recent events which basically brought the topic in the attention of the audience. It's basically we have a very recent Nobel Prize win from Claudia Godin, who is actually dedicated most of her academic life to researching the topic of participation of women in labor workforce. And also she studied the issue of gender pay gap and the potential causes. The fact that she received the Nobel Prize, it's a very important message that the topic is of general social interest. We have also seen what happened in Iceland, who is an example of equality between gender, but also where gender pay gap is of 21%, where we had seen a general strike in October from women, basically to raise attention to the topic. Looking back to CEE, the overall perception is that CEE is actually doing better than Western Europe, for example, in this matter, because women have been continuously involved in labor market even during the communist time, which was not happening in Western Europe. However, there are huge differences among countries in CEE, and we will talk about this with our guests representing different countries. Basically, it ranges from 4% to over 20%. But all countries have a lot of work to do around this. Also, as you will see from our survey, from Hopes and Fears survey, we see that the effects of the cost of living crisis that the whole world is affected of is affecting women much more than men. And basically, this is another reason during this very difficult economic years to raise the issue and to put it high on the agenda of HR. Basically, during the panel today, we will discuss about what we can do in different countries with perspectives of consultants and companies to bridge the gender pay gap and how we can create a more inclusive workplace where people feel empowered. before going to the presentation, we would also like to capture, let's say, your perception and engage a little bit in the discussion. And I will ask my colleagues to support with presenting Mentimeter. I'm not sure how many of you have used this tool. It's basically an online tool that supports us to communicate with you via this survey tool. You have two options here. Either you can scan the QR code that you are seeing on the screen right now, or you can go to www.menti.com, and there you will have a request for a password or a code, and you can see the code on the screen, which is 4317671104. I will pause for a few seconds so that we allow people to join the Mentimeter. Once you get in, you will see the question, which is basically exploring what is your perception or what is your guess, best guess in terms of the current average gender pay gap in EU countries. Okay, you can already see the questions, and of course, as you participants are answering, you will see live on the screen what the answers are. Yeah. So let's see. I see that we have very diverse answers, from close to 0 to close to 50%. But most of the answers seem to somewhere close to 15, 20%. Okay, let's wait because we see answers coming for a few more seconds. Okay. So I guess we are close to 15, 20% as an average on the scale. There are very pessimistic people saying that we are very close to 50. Also very optimistic ones who say that we are very close to 0. But I think the majority is somewhere below 20%. And actually, this is close to reality. And I will ask my colleagues to switch back to our presentation. Yes, the gender pay gap is 13% for last year, calculated at EU level. And basically, of course, this varies quite a lot among different countries. EU has also expressed their opinion on certain causes based on which we can see this gender pay gap. And they vary from labor participation of women on the labor market to the fact that women are better represented in lower paid sectors. And the best examples are healthcare and education, where employees are in majority women. And there is also a factor which is related to the fact that women tend to occupy rather in a larger percentage domestic activities which are non-remunerated. And of course, in addition to this overall or this generic description is what is called the maternity penalty, and the fact that women have to take career breaks to give birth and to take care of children. And last but not least is the overall, let's say, culture and attitude that women have towards career, in the sense that they seem to be less assertive than men in asking for promotions or pay raises. And our survey will actually tell you more about this in a few seconds. Now, looking a little bit at the country profiles, we have here an extract that only looks at the countries in our region from European Union, of course. And as you can see, the range is very, very large, from below 4% in Romania, Slovenia, Poland, very close to 4%, going to very high gender pay gap in In the Baltics, Hungary, Slovakia, and Czech Republic, they are actually above the EU average. As I said earlier, this is also very much related to the participation of women in the labor force. EU has also reflected a correlation between the participation of women on the labor market and the gender pay gap, meaning that the higher the participation, it's also the higher the gender pay gap. In the countries where women participation is lower, and Romania is one of the examples, the gender pay gap is lower because in this situation, the tendency is to have more, let's say, educated and higher paid women on the labor market, while the ones who would occupy low paid jobs, in a lot of cases, they are not employed at all. At the other hand, when we have high labor participation, the gap tends to be higher as well. This is the introduction to the topic, and I'm looking forward actually to let our guest speakers give you much more insights, and of course, very soon to start a discussion on the topic. I will give the floor to Michal to present the insights from our latest edition of Hopes and Fears survey. Michal?
Thank you, Anna, and good morning and good afternoon from myself. Thank you all participants to be with us, and also thank you for our guests. As Anna said, before we go into the discussion, we would like to make some background from the insights of our flagship survey that we are conducting every year around the globe among the thousands of the employees. And we did the same this year in 2023, including our CEE region, where more than 3,000 employees responded to the survey. So let me start with some wider perspective of how the employees, and also in comparison to CEOs, see the future of their companies, the companies that they are employed. And as you see from the slide, we have asked the question whether, taking into account that your employer will stay on the trajectory, business trajectory as it is, whether your employee will survive, will be still in the business in next years. And as you see the results on the left-hand side for CEE, almost half of the CEOs said, this will not allow to stay more than 10 years at the market if there will be no transformation. But only 27% of the employees believe so, although still this is almost 1/3 of employed people that see the need for transformation. Otherwise, their employer will not survive more than 10 years. These numbers are for employees less than the globally respondents told us. But if you think about more optimistic perspective that the company will last more than 10 years, the results for CEE response are similar to this that we have received at the global level. Another question, which is not directly related to the equality of pay, but definitely which bring us more to the topics of women empowerment and people empowerment in the business, are these two. We have asked, as you see, the questions related to the fact whether people believe that there is an open, decent discussion with their managers in the organization. That was the first one. And there is very noticeable difference how the CEOs see that. And more than half of them believe that, themselves and their managers are open and really encourage the openness in the organization, when only 1/3 of employees agreed with that statement. So only 1/4 of the employed people really see the openness in feedback, openness in the discussion with their superiors. And another question, which is, in our opinion, also interesting, was about the tolerance to the small-scale failures, or whether there are some minor mistakes may happen. And again, perspective of the leadership, CEOs is different than the employees. Only 1/3 of employees believe or see the situation in their companies that there is acceptance or tolerance to the minor mistakes, which of course influences very much the creativity and willingness to take some risk when taking new ventures or starting new tasks in the firm. If there is no such acceptance for small mistakes, which are obvious if you start with the new things that you are doing. Going into the more topics of remunerating and equal remunerating, the next insights that I would like you to focus a little bit, it's about the financial situation. And as Anna mentioned, across the world, we have faced over last months or year or 2 years the higher inflation, which was especially high in our region, or at least in many countries in our region. And we have asked the respondents, which of the statements about the financial situation their household is a correct one, or which one is that they see and they believe they sit. And as you can see from the slide, this is on the second row from the top. 58% of females employees, women, say they have no or very little money left at the end of the month when they pay their bills and extras. And this is definitely situation worse than we see this at the global level, with the responses at the global level. If we look whether there are money that left at in employees' pockets in CEE, this is below 30%, while at the global level that's almost 40%. But what is important here, which is entering us to the discussion about the equality and equal paying, is that there is 8% difference in responses between men's and women's, which most likely could be the reason of this, could be the difference in payments, in remunerating. The next point, and just a few others that I would like to raise your attention to, is about the taking more than one jobs by employees in our region. This is not very common situation. 80% of CEE employees responded they have than one job, which is close to the global results. At the global level, the 21% of our respondents replied that they have at least 2 jobs. What is more even interesting from our survey is that as you see here, the financial motivation is much higher, or almost 10 percentage points higher for women than men for having extra job. And again, this is like interesting insight for a further panel discussion on equality in remunerating. 2 more insights. This is not just about the pay, but also like empowering and willingness to discuss with the superiors. As you see from that slide and that question, we have asked, how likely are you take the action, for example, to ask for a raise of remuneration? and you see that that much more men than women are keen or will to ask for increase of remuneration, and the same about the asking their leaders for promotion. What is, however, interesting, if you look at the lower part of that slide, if you think about the working in a more flexible way, so either as a contractor, using any so-called gig work arrangements, also female employees are almost equal to the men's if they consider this, or if I take this more flexible way of being employed. And the last insight then, before we jump into the our panel discussion, we have also asked respondents in our region, employees, to what extent they agree with the statement, as you see on the slide, in their current work, at their current employers, sorry. And there are like 3 elements in which we see the differences between the men's and women's responses. So one of this is like the flexibility of doing what is really interesting for me or what suits me. More 4 percentage points of male employees responded that they can easily or freely to do this or ask for this. Another dimension, another question, and the difference between the responses between men and women is about the whether the managers, whether the team leaders consider the employee, the respondent viewpoint when there is a decision to be made. And again, female respondents told us that there are less positive answer to this by 4 percentage points than in case of men's. On the other hand side, and another point is about the being rewarded fairly, which is really taking us close to the discussion. But just to finally on that part, to show you the 2 questions or 2 responses around the fulfillment of in the job, or the being expressing as people would like to express into work, being myself, as we called it at work. As you see, female employees responded more positively than male employees to that, which is very interesting and positive insight. So that's like a background for our discussion, and I hope we can reach out to any of these points during further talks. So Anna, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. And actually, just to mention, because there was a question in our chat about this, I shared the link. The summary of this report is available on our global website. And also, I mentioned that you can all ask questions on the chat functionality, and we will do our best to answer during webcast or following up afterwards if the time doesn't allow to address all the questions. So thank you very much. We will go now to the most interesting part, the panel discussion, when we will have all our invitees sharing their views on the topic and coming up with examples from their experience and from their companies. And I would like to start with Anda, because she represents both a country and the sector from CEE perspective, at least, with quite a significant gender pay gap. So Latvia as a country is a little bit above the CEE average and above the EU average as well. And also we know that banking sector is one of the areas, economic areas where the gender pay gap is known to be more important. Anta, what do you think is the cause of this gender pay gap, and also how do you see this reflected in your company, in the bank that you are representing, in Swedbank?
Hi, everyone. So thank you for the question. And like regarding this Latvian percentage, I think that this is better than it was like a few years ago. And probably the salary setting in our job ads helped to improve the situation in Latvia. And of course, we are also following how this pay gap situation is going on in the market. And to be honest, we are more like following based on Figure Baltic Advisory salary survey presentations each year, where we are participating to see the compensation, what the other companies are paying. And there, like each year, this company also shows how the equal pay and gender pay gap has decreased for those companies who are participating in the survey. And there are like almost 400 companies who are filling this survey, and we can see that this percentage decrease. And I know that from the general market, 2022, the pay gap was 8.2, and this year it was already 5.4. So this is the tendency that Latvian is working on that. So I hope that this percentage will decrease also in a whole market. But of course, we are following also how the finance sector looks, and it looks a bit worse, based on this Figure Baltic Advisory information, and it's 10%. But we are a company who already started to work with this topic in 2014. And not only this European Union percentage we took into consideration, it was mainly we saw that the financial sector is not fair according to women, and we as company wanted to take decision that this will not be our case, and we will amend the situation, at least in our organization, and now we are working on that on daily basis.
Great. So I see that you are doing a lot of measurement around the topic, and you also mentioned the topic of transparency, which you are saying actually supported the overall positive development of the issue. What would you advise your colleagues from other banks, and not only generally, because I understand you already are taking measures in Swedbank to address this issue. What would you advise to do as programs, HR programs, or generally in terms of, I don't know, measuring this gap, benchmarking it, as you mentioned?
So I will then shortly explain our journey for this topic. So it started in 2014 when our Swedbank Group's leadership team decided that we will follow this topic in all our home markets, but included Sweden, Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. And that we set very very challenging goal, that equal pay measurement will be 0. Currently, nowadays, we understand that 0 is not fully totally possible because of the employment changes. So we have employees who are leaving company, then coming back. So the salary situation changed on a daily basis, on monthly basis. So our goal and our KPI for the management teams are 1% difference, plus minus 1% between women and men. This is acceptable, but also need to explain. And when we started this journey, we also said that we will start to work about this diversity topic in our company. So this is also one of the topics what we took into consideration, and we will follow up also the gender balance in our management positions. Mm-hmm. And nowadays, I need to say that in Latvia, currently, we have a very interesting situation. So we have 11 representatives in our management team, and currently 3 of them are only men. So we need to think from the opposite side nowadays. But when we started, this was on a different position. And then, of course, when we started to do it, we put a job evaluation system in a place. So this is, I would say, this is the main thing what companies should do, that you can evaluate and compare the equal jobs to equal jobs. So to say, to compare apples to apples. And we took Korn Ferry methodology as our job evaluation system. And currently and nowadays we have created process, and this is ongoing process. Managers knows when they can turn to compensation and benefit colleagues and start to evaluate or new created jobs, or if job content has significantly changed for the position. So this is a process what we are following up during the year. Then, of course, next step was to ensure that the employees doing the same job were receiving the same salary level. And we created our calculation methodology in place. And at that time, in 2014, the goal was to achieve this equal pay situation in 2017. So 3 years we had this journey. And we even in that time had special budget aside for this purpose. So when we saw that there is issue, let's decrease this gap, and then we use this special money. Today we don't have any more special budget, so we have implemented this rule as on all daily HR processes. When we are recruiting person, we are checking how this new person will look like according to the team members who are performing the same job. So this is what we need to take into consideration when we have annual salary review. Then this is one of the key points that equal pay should be taken into consideration when you are setting new salaries. And of course, we are calculating this equal pay, as I mentioned, as it is a KPI. So we are calculating on monthly basis this, and we are following up. And because of some legislation changes, we have becoming more transparent also for this topic. So we are publishing salary information in job ads, and not only in countries where it's demanded by law, like in Lithuania and Latvia, but also in Estonia, where it is not yet practice for other companies to publish the salaries, but we are doing this. And then internally, we have created a system how we inform our employees and managers about our salary setting principles. We have internally transparent salary ranges for job positions based on how market is paying. We are participating in those salary surveys, and we are updating our salary ranges, those minimum and maximum amounts what we are paying every year after this salary survey results come out, and informing and publishing this. So shortly.
Yeah. So what I get from your presentation is that basically you started by cleaning up the overall structure and basically putting in order the overall pay design, in your organization. Yeah. And secondly, it's a lot related to continuous communication and making sure that what you're doing is transparent and everybody is aware of this policy. And also you mentioned the fact that you are looking at having a balance on certain types of roles, because one of the issues related to gender pay gap is also the representation of men and women in certain types of jobs. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Great. Very, very interesting example. Have you seen any additional, interest or pressure from the employee side during the recent years, coming back to what Michael was presenting from our survey in terms of the fact that the overall economical situation has affected, let's say, women a little bit more than men? Do you see any pressure from this perspective?
Yes, we see, but as a company who is responsible also for women who are returning back from the parental leave or maternity leave, so we have special process in place. So when person is coming back, then managers should review salary immediately for this person, because this person probably will escape some 1 or 2 annual salary reviews. And this is demand for the managers to review immediately after turning back. So this is our process where we are following up. Yeah.
Right. I would also like to invite the other colleagues maybe to comment on what is happening overall in this economic situation, and the fact that the cost of living crisis has affected women more than men. Do you think the gender pay gap is the only cause? Do you think there are other causes to this phenomenon? I don't know, Michael, Katarzyna, Kasia, or Ioana, if you would like to comment on this.
Hello. Hello, everybody, and happy to be here with you. I was thinking to that because somehow I think that in terms of gender pay gap, it's also a matter of perception and bias. And I was questioning myself if it is a real pay gap or it is only this kind of perception when we are talking about cost of living, because in many cases we are talking about families and common budgets. But probably we as a women have somehow different needs and also different desires. The men are more with gadgets. We are also with other things, and maybe this could be also an additional burden. But somehow I think that here it's important not only the salary, it's also I think the coaching and the mindset that we should build inside society, and also in terms of raising the new generation to be more focused actually not only on our rights but also on our choices, because always we have a choice as men and women. And I think that sometimes we as women forget to use this kind of choices. So here I think it's a matter of changing the mindset, encouraging the new generation, but also the old generation to be more confident in our own capabilities, and also to be more aware about the opportunities that are somehow commonly spread in the market. In my opinion, this is also the duty of the big companies, and also the duty, or let's say the I would say duty also of senior leaders, women, because they are somehow role models, they are examples that can be used and more spread it up in the society. I was thinking because Romania is one of the countries. Actually, Romania has the lowest pay gap, and again, the question is how come? And I was remembering
if this is true as well, because that was my question for you. You anticipated my question. Is it a reality, or is it what does this number represent actually?
Actually, I reconnected with one of my memories. I was around, I think, in the sixth year of the school, and I enjoy a lot reading. I was good at the Romanian lessons and so on. And I had also a certain moment when my mother was very, very upset on me having very small marks at mathematics. My mother used to be a Romanian professor, and at a certain moment she said, "Look, you have to learn mathematics. You must learn mathematics because this will give you more options. So it's not a choice. You have to do this. Look at me," because I was assigned, this was during communism period, and she was assigned to a very poor village, very far from home. Coming back somehow, I think that this was also in an important period of cultural Romanian market, because somehow we as a women were somehow also pushed by the realities of those time to do something with our life, also in the, let's say, more technical areas. And somehow this obliged us to be, let's say, more focused also on this kind of things, cybernetics, polytechnic and things like that. So probably this is one of the answer of this question, because a lot of women in Romania are working. They are also present in the upper levels of the companies in the market, and somehow this is part of our history. Probably it is also, let's say, the general environment that encourages us to do like that. And then also we were very keen to be hired in the multinationals that came here immediately after the communism period. So somehow I think that this is part of the situation.
Yeah. You mentioned, of course, the elements which are related to the overall education, early education coming from the family and from the society. But you also mentioned that you think large companies at least have a duty to contribute to this factor and to supporting women to become a bit more assertive, more self-confident maybe. Maybe you have some examples from this role or from other roles in terms of what a large company can do to support this.
Yes, of course. For example, we have different internal programs like mentoring and activities to share somehow the experience of our leaders. I will not mention the usual stuff like framework with policies and procedures that are putting this in front of everybody. I would say that many of the things that Andra already shared with you, I will not repeat them, are also present in UniCredit, and is an important commitment at our group level to do like that. So this is first of all assumed in front of everybody by our CEO. And also, if you look to the photos of our CEO, group CEO, you'll see that there are actually many women in the senior leadership team. Besides that, we started also to, I would say again, around 2017, 2018, also in the discussions with our trade union, sharing and also focusing on this gender pay gap, explaining why we need to focus on it. And at that time, actually, they were not aware about this. And they said, okay, this is a stupid thing. But then they understood, because also in the trade union, usually are also a lot of women. So it was a good thing. Another point is that, okay, we can have actions and plans and policies, but it's very important to remain focused, consistent and disciplined. So we have to repeat this and to communicate this many times in order also to change the perception. Sometimes the perception is not actually the reality. There is this effect, and again, it's our responsibility to show these, let's say, biases.
And the numbers. And have you seen, do you agree with Andra that you see an improvement in this gender pay gap during the recent years?
I don't have, I cannot say that I saw something like that, but I saw, for example, some other things that sustain somehow the related concepts. For example, I can see that a lot of gentlemen, started to use the paternity leaves. So that means that there are some steps already in acknowledge that actually there are two parents raising the kids. Then in terms of managers, actually, we have more. We have increased the numbers of managers women. And it's more likely that they are also aware about, let's say, lack of assertivity or confidence that usually women has. So this kind of real facts, yes, I saw. And for sure, this will help us also to improve the gender pay gap. I would say that it's much easier to focus on same role gender pay gap. But it's a lot important to focus also on the demographic one. And for example, for the banks, at least in Romania, we can see that actually this is a bit of need to focus to rebalance a bit the demographic gender balance. So not so much the same role over there. I think that we are all, I would say, very good, but it's important to focus to raise a bit the presence of the men, let's say, on lower levels, and to increase more the upper levels. And here it's not only about their willingness, but it's also a matter of job content. The job content on entry levels is not so appealing for men. So we have to work on this.
Yeah. Actually, you touched a very important point, which is also related to the way we measure the gender pay gap. Yeah, and this is, if we are looking by some methodologies, looking by quartile of pay, you will see in a lot of cases women being very well represented in the lower quartiles and very little represented in the upper quartiles, which means it's about a lot of other HR processes, not just about the pay itself, but it's also about how we recruit, how we promote, how we facilitate access to well-paid jobs.
I would like to share only one small thing here, because one surprise that we have, I think last year, it was to see that actually when we had the performance management process, the percentage of people with strong performance was much higher for gentlemen than for ladies. So somehow this is another thing that is not related directly with this gender pay gap, but more with the process itself and also the biases that we see, and somehow showing the proofs, the facts actually, because the people don't want, the managers don't want to recognize this. But then when you come with figures, it's easier for them to raise the awareness.
Yes, true. Thank you very much, Oana, for sharing these examples. Now, because we had two invitees from the banking sector, which is one of the most regulated, in a way, a pioneer in the gender pay gap measurement because of EBA requirements. I would like to switch and to ask a question to Kasia, who is also our leader in ESG people topics, so to speak, and who can present to us a little bit about the new coming regulations that we should all expect, and all companies should be prepared to report, to start measuring certain elements in terms of people aspects related to sustainability. Of course, gender pay gap is one of them. And please, Kasia, if you can brief us on what we should expect.
Yes, thank you, Anna. Welcome, everyone. So basically, as Anna mentioned, since last year, actually, we have a couple of regulations that are touching different areas of our business life that is somehow affecting the fact that that the firm's gonna have more drivers to take a look at pay gap, but not only at these aspects. We are talking here about CSRD directive, so the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which is covering not only this one, but more non-financial reporting obligation of the company. But this is not the only regulation that we have recently, especially in European Union area. We have already enforced the transparency directive, so-called transparency directive, which is touching also the pay gap areas, but also the transparency in terms of showing the remuneration policies. But in some sectors, we have also regulations, especially in the financial sector, as we were touching, for many years, referring also to this topic. So basically, nowadays, we have much more regulatory-driven reasons for keeping this topic close to our hearts, and not only at the HR level, where it was usually dealt with, but also in terms of other areas of our companies. In terms of CSRD, as I mentioned, it is somehow aligned with Pay Transparency Directive. It refers not only to the pay gap, but the broader perspective of ESG reporting obligation, which also somehow connects the topic of pay gap with other topics like financial reporting or governance structure. Why I think it is important? Because at this moment, HR people are not alone in fighting for this particular matter, and there are more and more obligations and KPIs on other stakeholders that can support also this acting. I would like to mention one thing about how we can feel the effect of Pay Transparency Directive. We all know that we need to disclose the pay gap. We need to disclose some remunerations we are having, but there is one more thing that not everybody is aware of, that if our pay gap is more than 5%, we cannot deal it by ourselves, but we need to involve representatives of our employee to the table. In all companies from our region, we know that this is much more difficult to deal with the company and the company's policies when we need to consult with trade unions and other representatives of employees, because we are less flexible in this area. So this is kind of the driver that in my opinion is gonna somehow force companies and maybe make them more willing to take care about this topic, not only once the regulations are enforced in the given countries, but also in advance. And one more comment, maybe, what do we have apart from pay gap disclosure? We also should show what are the branches of our remuneration for the given groups of employees. We shouldn't prevent, as employers, we shouldn't prevent employees to disclose their pay details, what was very important in our remuneration policies so far, but also we need to include in our tools to compare pay levels gender neutral criteria and include gender neutral job evaluation clarification system. We were mentioning about that. So not only the financial level of remuneration should be set in the transparent and equal way, but also the processes supporting this remuneration policies should be set up in this way.
From your experience, Kasia, because you are working with a lot of companies, how prepared or how much pressure do companies feel at this moment in this perspective, and have they started to actually take action?
I would say that the CSRD directive and the directive of transparency made some move. So far, as I mentioned, it was only the topic of HR. Now, when it came also important from the perspective of, for example, ESG leaders or CEOs, I think there is more focus on dealing with that, especially that this is not separated topic. For example, the whole remuneration policy, it's not only the matter of HR, but this is also the matter of the cost control, and it's aligned with the business strategy of the firm. So I would say that regulations are the best, I think, motivator for the C-suite levels to start doing something, and we have more and more regulations being enforced in more and more countries now.
And also, even if it looks like the legislation is not here yet, some of the things take quite a while to be implemented, like new base pay systems and so on. So the sooner you start, the better you will be later. Exactly,
especially that, for example, in some countries, the headquarters of the companies are located in the countries where the regulations are already enforced. Yeah.
Maybe going back to Oana and Nanda, because again, they represent a very regulated sector. How prepared are you for this? How prepared do you feel, let's say, for this CSRD provisions, for the new directives related to pay transparency?
So I can maybe answer. Then I think as we have already process in place, so we feel at this moment like comfortable because something we have already. So we are measuring, of course, we are measuring equal pay gap, and we need to think, and we are waiting how our local legislation will implement this directive in our local laws, what will be the demands for the reporting and calculations, how they want to see this, how we will do. And so from that perspective, we are calm, but we, of course, also will have some kind of discussions during the 2024 in our management teams and in Comp and Ben area, how to work with this.
Okay, Oana, do you have any thoughts?
I was just smiling hearing Nanda, because somehow we have similar situation. Yes, and somehow talking about regulations we are think that we are prepared, but in the end there are still small things that we have to fix. So ready to
and this
do
will
it.
become a regular process in HR probably in a few years from now.
Yes, and somehow the first thought is again another regulation on this stuff.
Yes, okay, we touched this area of regulations, which is always putting a lot of pressure, and it's sometimes the form before the substance, but it supports the substance. And I would switch back to Michael to discuss a little bit about the issue of how these regulations are actually helping in the end the root cause of the problem and the real empowerment of women. What can companies do actually to go beyond, this surface number basically, and really address the issue at the roots?
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, that was also one of the questions probably, which was like bottom up, how to engage more and or enforce or encourage women to be more assertive or be more vocal, which is like, another end of the same discussion, I would say. And Anna Preda mentioned this a little bit. I see three elements from my experience, either with our organization and the clients that we are helping around this. First of all, I fully agree that this is done from the top, and that could be forced by KPIs, but KPIs, as usual, they could help. But the other is really the mindset of the leadership and like the acceptance or willingness that to accept that yes, there needs to be some more support, there needs to be a little bit different approach towards women, to encourage them to raise the hands and talk about the promotion, talk about the new roles, or ultimately increasing remuneration. So the tone from the top. Second, I would say, and it was also mentioned, I strongly believe, and I saw the results of the mentoring programs. This is really either there are internal ones, or there are many organizations that do the like cross businesses programs, which could be even better when ladies from the different companies, different sectors may share their experience and really, teach to each other how to overcome that some of these deficiencies or fears even. And the third one, really down to the earth. This is what, for example, we have done in PwC. This is really like it talks to the within the women's and not only men's as well. For example, about the benefits of using parenting. That was on the men's side, really to make this equality, but also like the discussion between women that went through the a few stages in the organization. At the same time, were successful with their personal life and share this within the organization freely with the younger generations. That really help. We see already like more encourage young managers or further leaders to raise a hand, raise a voice, and be in the discussion about the promotion, about the next business steps.
Yeah, I think it's actually you answered one of the questions that came on chat. How do you handle this aspect of assertiveness in the organization? There is also an interesting one, and I think you started to touch on this, the fact that in Western Europe and US, we have already more women who finish education and more men who drop out of school, actually, more boys. And we have a generation of boys who are underperforming in schools. The question is, what is the situation in CEE? I'm not sure we are ready to answer from a social perspective, but how do you see this basically long term? The question is to you, but also to the other invitees. The fact that, we definitely see a change basically in higher education and in the demographics of employment.
Yeah, quickly, I agree, and I need to admit I don't have in mind or before me the results for CEE about this. Probably, that's a little bit, I guess, that's happening. But I would be conscious about like this as an answer to the topic that we are touching. Yeah, that would be, so we have less men than women with the higher education, so that equality will come by its own. I would say, don't go into this route. Let's really use the tools, the methods, the programs as we have discussed. Maybe the demographics to some extent make this more equal, yeah, but that would be just extra factor that could just help us and not be the first one to use.
Anyone else wants to comment on this overall social topic, so to speak? We have another question actually, and I want to confirm for everyone that yes, there is a recording of the webcast, and the participants who registered will receive the recording. If I would like to ask each of our invitees, because we are approaching the end of our webcast, to basically have a final thought, maybe a message or a recommendation for our viewers. What would be the key message after this webcast? What should they have in mind when going back to their jobs to address gender pay gap? Who would like to start?
I can start. If you agree, of course. Okay. I think that, first of all, it's important that the society is focusing on that, because whenever we focus on something, there is a move. And this is the most important, to raise awareness and to each of us to have at least one small step towards being better. And also we have kids, we are parents, most of us, or many of us. For example, I have two boys, and I tried to somehow to share with them part of my women life and also my women responsibilities, because somehow both parents of girls and boys should be aware of all these inequalities that were in the past. But it's also, again, something on which we can work more from our role of parents. So somehow this would be my thoughts. And also in terms of, let's say, leadership, over there are so many things to be done. And here again, I would mention the internship programs that we have, where we can discuss about this, help everybody, boys and girls, and young students, to understand and to remain balanced in their mindset.
Thank you, Anna. Anda, maybe, or?
So I think I can agree with what Anna said, that we just need to work on this topic and not to think about this one day and then forget, but this ongoing process, ongoing work on this topic should be done, and in all organizations, and we need to cooperate not only in HR, what is mentioned, but together with our management teams to convince them and to agree with them that this is very important. And of course, we need to encourage also women to speak for themselves, to be more brave when they're sending job applications, when they are asking for salaries for them. So just to keep going and keep working on this topic.
Thank you very much, Anna. Kasia?
I just wanted to encourage everybody to start early to prepare to the upcoming changes in terms of regulations.
Good, but better be ready. And Mikal, of course, we have a very diverse panel, as you can see.
This is what I just wanted to say, that I am the example of diversity here, the gender, at least, diversity. Anyway, yes, I strongly believe, and this is visible, that the balanced leadership, balanced companies, really has right now, we will have better financial results. This is not like quick win, but definitely the longer term journey, but we need to be there.
That's great. Thank you very much, everyone. We had a very balanced discussion between regulation and data on gender pay gap, but also the wider social issue. It's obvious that solving this issue will address not just the reporting obligations, but it will ultimately improve social welfare and harmony, which we all need. We here in PwC, whatever perspective you want to take on the matter, be it ESG or diversity and inclusion or remuneration, we are here to support you with our thought leadership and of course with our consulting services. Thank you very much for being with us here today and looking forward for the next regional webcast. Have a great day.